What's going on, H2O Army? Just from H2O Plants. The shell dwellers are sick, so stay tuned to see what we're doing about it and to see what it is.
If you're new here, consider hitting the subscribe button and enlisting in the H2O Army. Also, hit the bell icon to make sure you join our elite notification squad.
Alright guys, so I don't know where to start with this story. As you know, baby Nova was born on February 8th. That was a Thursday. We left the house Thursday morning around 10 a.m. and we were in the hospital until Saturday afternoon, about 6 p.m. in the afternoon. Before I left, I came and checked all the tanks on Wednesday night, not Thursday. I didn't actually get a chance to come down to the room on Thursday. But on Wednesday night, I checked everything looked fine. So much so I even took photographs of the shell dwellers and they were all fine. And I'm gonna show you those now. They looked fine. There was nothing wrong with them. Absolutely nothing at all. We didn't do anything either. I did a water change Tuesday and they seemed to be fine. All of a sudden Saturday I come home, I briefly came down here and I looked and I didn't see any of them out, but I didn't think anything of it. Normally when the lights first come on or they see movement for the first time, they hide, and that's typical. And I thought, hey, they're just, you know, just a little spooked, that's fine. They haven't seen anybody, you know, in 3 days. It'll be okay, you know. Then I come down Sunday and I'm like looking at them and I honestly don't know where any of them are. I didn't see any of them and I'm like, this is so weird. Not even like a little tail in the shells or anything. I honestly thought they were dead. I waited patiently in front of the tank like I am now, waiting for any of their little heads to poke out, and nothing. They were honestly just gone. I thought they were dead. Alright guys, I have to stop the video right here. The reason being is there's been new information that has arisen with this tank. So I'm gonna let the rest of the video play so you can see the kind of mind that I was in when I was filming this originally, and then we're gonna cut at the very end to what I know now, so that way you can see the difference of sometimes you may think it's something but it's really something else. So pay attention, see what I'm talking about, and then we'll come back and you'll see exactly what happened. Turns out they aren't dead yet. Hopefully they all survive, but there's a major illness in the tank, something like of which I've never seen before, nor do I know what even caused it. Being that we were away for 3 days, I figured it would be fine. There was no feedings, there was nothing going on in those 3 days that should have changed anything having to do with the aquarium. So what's exactly going on and what did I see? So first, I came down, like I said, I didn't see any of the shell dwellers out. And then I started looking around and I saw their little heads, a couple of them, not all of them. I only saw 2 at the time out of 6 that we have in here. Poke their little heads out of their shells and I see heavy breathing, gills, mouth moving nonstop rapidly. Then I look around for a little bit longer and I see one little straggler, which is now in this breeder box here, was swimming very erratically up and down, crashing into things left and right, and just not normal behavior, because keep in mind, shell dwellers, they only typically stay in the bottom third of the tank. They won't ever go up to the top of the tank. So if they do that, something's extremely wrong, which this guy was. So that immediately alerted me to a major problem. So I did have a hunch that it may be a parasitic infection. So what I did is I got some of this Herbtana product, and this is not a sponsored video. This is something that I've used for ick previously. It cures the ick literally in 2 days. It worked great for me when I did use it. But it does treat parasitic diseases. It treats white spot, which is ick, flukes, gill or skin, Xylodinella, Costella, Trichodina, Odinium. I don't know what any of those are, other than like flukes. I know kind of what those are, but the other 4 I don't. And so I figured, because it hit the ick so fast when I had ick in a previous tank, that this may work for this. It's 100% natural, it's plant safe, shrimp safe, all that good stuff, and it's worked really good in the past. So I figured, you know what, let me try dosing it. So we've been dosing it for about 6 days, and there hasn't been any sign of improvement. So that really raised a red flag. I was like, honestly, I don't know what's going on. They're getting worse. I thought I lost at least like 3 or 4 of them, because I still only saw 2 or 3 of them at the time. Fast forward today, which is Friday of the following week, and I have head counts on all 4. So all 4, or I'm sorry, all 6. All 6 are still alive. But what I did last night is I treated with Parasite Guard from Tetra. Now, I just have this laying around. It's actually good to keep some meds on hand. So I have Parasite Guard, I have Fungus Cure, and I have the Herbtana, which is my ick medication. So I have stuff for parasites, I have stuff for fungal, and I have stuff stuff for and other parasites and ick that'll cure it normally. And I dosed the parasitic guard yesterday, and they seem to be improving slightly. Now, they're still heavy breathing. This guy that's in the breeder's box isn't swimming erratically. He's just kind of calm and gentle. But the bigger alpha male that I'm going to show you on screen now, he's just swimming around, not the way he normally does. So it's very alarming. I'm still very worried about them, and it's very concerning. If you guys haven't seen previous videos on these guys or heard me talk in the live streams, these are my favorite fish. Like, out of everything that I have down here, and everything I've kept in the past, these are the most fun to watch because of what they do. And unfortunately, I think we lost all the babies. I haven't seen any sign of the babies. There was 10 of them when we moved them into this tank. I haven't seen any. So I don't know if the infection got them or if they were eaten or whatever the case is. But I do know that these guys haven't really been eating. I'm going to try and feed them now that they're doing a bit better. Hopefully they'll take some sort of food. The one that's out over here has been nipping a little bit at food, but I haven't seen them actually ingest anything. So I'm very, very worried. You know, it's gone almost 10 days without food that I know of, unless they've been picking at scraps after I walk away. So they may actually wind up starving themselves to death rather than the whatever's going on hurting them or killing them. So after I was using the Ariptana for a couple of days and not seeing any signs of improvement, I actually reached out to Kyle's Wild World on Instagram. He's I think another YouTube channel. I don't know if he uploads regularly or not. I actually haven't watched, but he's conversated with me back and forth with a previous time when I had sick fish, and he said that I should have reached out to him. He might be able to help, so I did. And he said that it does seem like a parasitic infection. Not sure exactly what it is, maybe flukes, but he did recommend me to go get some General Cure and some I'm going to butcher this name, erythromycin, there we go, I think I got it right, to just dose just in case. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually do a 50% water change just to get the parasitic guard out that I had from Tetra, so I could dose with these because supposedly these are a bit better. I've never used them before. Like I said, I just picked them up. These things are expensive too. I think $45 I spent just on the 2 meds, but it's well worth it. These are my favorite fish, and I definitely don't want to see any of them die. The babies, that's one thing. Unfortunately, that's really nothing I can do about that, but this is where we're at today. I'm hoping that this works. All right, guys, so that's what I thought last night when I was trying to film this video and get it out there and get help. And while some of it was accurate information, the fish was exhibiting these signs. It was a kind of a classic sign of a parasitic infection. That wasn't necessarily the case. Now, I still don't know if that is 100% wrong or if what my new theory is now, but after speaking with Joey, the king of DIY, as many of you may know him, he's one that's kept shell dwellers, and I was explaining to him, because I saw that he had his sick fish, and that the shell dwellers are sick, and he actually has a huge appreciation for these fish. He's saying that doesn't sound like an illness, because if you haven't introduced anything into the tank, then there's no way that they could have essentially got a parasitic infection. And I was like, you're absolutely right, but they're exhibiting all these signs. He says, honestly, it sounds like there's a lack of aeration, and maybe they're just irritated. So I took him up on that, and I was like, you know what, now that I think about it, when I did the water change last night, big water change, and then I dosed dosed the medications, the fish seemed to act better. They were instantly more active, which was a good sign. So I was like, okay, well maybe it was just nitrates were high or something like that. But then I thought about it some more, and I realized that when I stuck my hand in the tank, it was a little warm. Now, the tank's normally a little warm. It's warmer than all the other tanks. This tank is typically kept at about 79, 80 degrees, and that's just from what I read online. Shell dwellers seem to like warmer temperatures. It also increases breeding. So I set the heater to about 80 degrees, and they've been fine, no issues whatsoever. But when I stuck my hand in last night, it seemed a little warmer, and I thought that was odd, but I couldn't find my instant read thermometer. I didn't know where it was. I now have found it. When I just read it before, it was it was 86 degrees, which is way too high. typically you wouldn't go anything past 82, so it being 86 was way too high. So the only reason why that even came up, because Joey said to me, what's your temperature at? And I said, well, I didn't really know right off the top of my head, so I searched around. I was like, okay, let me actually get an accurate reading to see, and it's showing that it was almost 86 degrees, and that's a huge no-no. So instantly I was like, okay, that has got to be it, because Joey was also explaining that shows all the same signs, heavy breathing, because when the water is warmer, there's lack of oxygen, and being that I didn't have an air stone, which I now placed in here, the filter isn't breaking the surface of the water, so it's not agitating it a whole lot, so it's not creating aeration. So the oxygen levels in the tank were low. It would also, in my mind, keep them to stay at the bottom of the tank, because the bottom water would be cooler than the top water. Like, they would be in their shells, because that's at the coldest point that the water would possibly be. Also, on top of that, it would cause Eradicate swimming, because they kept coming up, at least this guy that's in the breeder's box, kept coming up almost looking like he was gulping for air, which I interpreted as erratic behavior. So that was the signs of that. So I'm about 90% sure Joey nailed it on the head. The temperatures were too high. They were annoyed. Luckily, I think they're going to be okay. I do see them, kind of still being in their shell right now. I just did a 50% water change. I didn't record it, because it was like, okay, no, the temperature is really high. I need to get this down lower. So the temperatures right now are reading 78 degrees, which is better, way more comfortable for them. I'm letting it circulate. I added in an air pump to add aeration, just to get air in the water. Even though we did a water change, I still want it to be over aerated, let them, get better and freshen up that way. So what exactly went wrong? Well, it turns out it's the heater, because as I was inspecting it when I was doing a water change, I turned the knob all the way down to the lowest setting, and the lowest setting should be, I think, about 68 degrees, and it was still coming on when the water temperature is 75, or it was 78 degrees. So this shouldn't be turning on. It's turning on, which means the temperature sensor is broken. So this all comes back to a faulty heater, because for a parasitic infection, I would have had to introduce something new. And although I did add a couple plants, it's not typical that you would get a parasitic disease from a plant coming in, especially when the plant's coming from a tank with no fish in it whatsoever. So if it was a parasitic disease, it would have had to have lived on the fish, then fallen off, like say if it was ick or something else, and then attached to a plant, and then live long enough to be put in this tank and then latch on, which wouldn't make much sense. It would have needed a host to survive that long. So this just goes to show faulty equipment can sometimes be the cause. I didn't really pay attention to that when I was trying to figure out what was going on here. I did dose meds, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it. I did already 50-60% water change. I think it'll be all right now, so I'm going to monitor these guys over the next couple hours, and at the end of this video I'll try and include, like, if they're good or not. We'll see. I have to edit this. This is now being filmed on Saturday morning. This video comes out Sunday, so I'm going to try and get you a last minute footage so you guys can see what it is. And I do appreciate you guys if you were gonna type all that feedback. Hope they're well. I hope they are too. I hope this was the cause. Big thanks for Joey for kind of thinking out loud with me, kind of thing, because that's sometimes what you really need, is just a friend to bounce ideas. All right, well, this is what I have going on, and I don't know. And being that he's more experienced with shell dwellers than I am, he definitely, I think, came up with the right solution. So we're gonna see. Hopefully these guys are good. If not, we'll see what happens. And like I said, I dosed meds, so whether it's the temperature or the meds, I think something should hopefully be the cause and be able to be fixed. So now, luckily, I have an extra heater on hand. I'm going to actually replace this heater with a better one. I didn't like this one. It's a cheap brand. It was just the only one that I had on hand when I set up this tank. So actually, no, this heater came from this tank, which was doing fine. So it just goes to show sometimes they go faulty. And yeah. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something new here today, that it's not always what you may think it is. It may be something else. And to always check your equipment. Apparently I didn't do that, and InstaRead thermometer is always a good thing. Temperatures are now sitting at 77 degrees, dropping to 76, which is good. I got to add in the heater so it doesn't drop too much, because it's going to be a 10-degree difference soon in just a couple minutes. They may get sick now after the heat damage is caused, because now they're going to be very essentially weak, starved, because I haven't seen them eating. They've been very in their shells, and So I may need to really watch them now. They may get a secondary problem going on. So I'm going to keep a close eye on them. They may get ick or something like that. And, hopefully we'll see what they do. Hopefully they're good. This guy actually looks already better from what I can see in just a couple minutes. So, guys, leave your comments below if something like this has ever happened to you before, where you thought it was one thing, it turned out to be something else. If you caught him in time, luckily, I think we may have caught it in time. As far as I could see, I think I count 5, maybe 6 of them. So hopefully they're all good. And like and share and all that good stuff so people can learn. Sometimes it's not what you think it is. And I'll see you guys on the next one.